When the British government issues the Balfour Declaration on November 2, 1917, it does so with the best of intentions, and the government appoints as first High Commissioner of Palestine a friend of the Jews. Indeed, he is a Jew himself. Herbert Samuel reaches the shores of the land of Israel on June 30, 1920. Zionists are elated. In the parlance of the time, a Jew will once again occupy the seat of King David. As a member of His Majesty's government, Samuel had worked closely with Zionist leader Chaim Weizmann. Most important, Samuel's arrival marks the end of the anti-Semitic rule of the British military. Perhaps the military's most outrageous act has been the imprisonment of the Jewish defenders of Jerusalem during the Arab riots of 1920. A British military court sentenced the leader of the group, Vladimir Ze'ev Jabotinsky, to 15 years hard labor. Samuel's first official act is to pardon Jabotinsky and the defenders. However, in a move that shocks the Jewish community, he also pardons the Arab rioters. It will prove the start of a long downward slide. As one historian notes,
all the senior officials that were serving in the administration when he arrived were left in place.
Most prominent is Sir Ronald Storrs. Samuel knows Storrs is an enemy of Zionism, yet he reinstalls him as governor of Jerusalem. Storrs' close friend, Ernest T. Richmond, becomes head of the administration's political section under Samuel. Storrs and Richmond play a major role in maneuvering Samuel to accept Haj Amin El-Husseini as Grand Mufti of Jerusalem in 1921. This will prove to be Samuel's most damaging move by far. For organizing the 1920 Arab riots, El-Husseini had been sentenced to 10 years by the British. Samuel pardons him. Colonel Richard Meinertzhagen, a British officer in the military administration, unusual in that he supported Zionism, is horrified.
His appointment is sheer madness. I am particularly annoyed about this, as before I left Palestine in 1920, I left a memorandum with Samuel warning him of appointing the man. Haj Amin is very ambitious, quite unscrupulous, and grossly dishonest. Sooner or later, his appointment will be bitterly regretted by us.
In 1921, El-Husseini is placed in charge of the Supreme Muslim Council, an institution established by the British which exerts near-total control over Muslim schools, religious courts, and their funding. From this perch, El-Husseini spearheads anti-Zionist agitation throughout the country. He will cap his career by helping Hitler exterminate Jews in World War II. On May 1, 1921, less than 1 year after Samuel takes office, riots break out in Jaffa. Jewish villages and towns are attacked throughout the country. Samuel's response is to immediately announce a halt to Jewish immigration. The Jews are stunned, as one historian relates.
The mourning Jewish community was horror-struck by Samuel's decision to punish the victims, his surrender to the preeminent demand of the Arab agitators to close the gates of Palestine to Jews.
9 months later, Samuel drafts what becomes known as the Churchill White Paper, named after Winston Churchill, who is Secretary of State for the colonies. Samuel's explicit goal is to reassure the Arabs by watering down the meaning of the Balfour Declaration. A month later, the League of Nations grants Britain the Palestine Mandate. At the last moment, the British insert a new article, number 25, into the text of the mandate. It enables the British to carry out a secret plan to create an Arab Transjordan out of eastern Palestine. 78% of the land designated for a Jewish national home is turned over to Abdullah, the second son of Hussein, the Grand Sharif of Mecca. When Samuel is finally removed from his post in 1925, the damage has been done. Jabotinsky notes,
"The years of Mr. Samuel in Eretz Israel constitute one of the most difficult pages not only in the history of Zionism, but in the whole of Jewish history."
A series of high commissioners succeed Samuel, varying in competence and attitude toward the Jews. But the Mufti remains, steadily increasing his incitement against the Jewish community of Palestine. As one historian reports,
the Arabs launched a campaign of propaganda within the Arab community and throughout the Muslim world, exploiting the religious theme. They charged the Zionists with plotting to take away the Muslim holy places.
This culminates in the Arab riots of 1929. On August 23rd, a day chosen by the Grand Mufti, the Arabs attack. For 8 days, the country is engulfed in an orgy of Arab violence. Worst hit are Hebron and Sfat. In Hebron, Jews take refuge in the house of Rabbi Jacob Slonim. The Arabs break in and slaughter 24 in gruesome fashion. Pierre Van Parsen, a journalist who is in Palestine at the time, describes the scene.
The rooms looked like a slaughterhouse. The blood stood in a huge pool on the slightly sagging stone floor. Clocks, crockery, tables, and windows had been smashed to smithereens. Not a single article had been left intact, except a large black and white photograph of Dr. Theodor Herzl, the founder of political Zionism. Around the picture's frame, the murderers had draped the blood-drenched underwear of a woman.
In a pattern that recurs throughout the mandate, the British appoint investigatory commissions, culminating in the Passfield White Paper of October 1930. Lord Passfield, the colonial secretary, is the recently ennobled Sidney Webb, a socialist guru at the center of the Fabian Society. His wife, the equally famous Beatrice Webb, remarks to Weitzman,
I can't understand why the Jews make such a fuss over a few dozen of their people killed in Palestine. As many are killed every week in London traffic accidents, and no one pays any attention.
The White Paper appeases the Arabs, calling for severe limits on Jewish immigration to Palestine and a curtailment of Jewish land purchases. Its most dangerous recommendation is the creation of a legislative council with a guaranteed Arab majority. Simply put, the White Paper, if implemented, spells the end of the Jewish national home.